Make those little slips. It happens. You have to have a plan, ability to manage your problems effectively. How are you going to do it? Fall off the horse? Jump right back on.
We're back and we're ready and set to get into our first segment for this morning. It is a time of the morning whereby we broke it down with Jenny. She hasn't been here for a while, but we'll be tackling why children are actually dropping out of school during this pandemic. Jenny is on Zoom. Jenny, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
How's
Good morning,
the weather
Belize.
there in Belmopan?
Oh, wet.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I
here
could
too.
imagine.
Here too.
I could
Wet.
imagine. I could imagine.
Yes.
The same way over here. We got some sprinkles this morning, but nonetheless, we still loving it. We love it, love it, love it.
Yes. Anytime.
But Jen, you've been missed as usual, and we've got some topics to share with you. As a matter of fact, we're looking forward to this one. This one surrounds why children are actually dropping out of school. Where do we start with this?
Oh man. I work with children. We were doing the metamorphosis, and so some of my kids have dropped out of school. And once they drop out, it's so hard to get them back. So I really was interested in, I started looking at overseas, what's going on overseas, and lots of children are dropping out. And the thing is, I have a little statement here that I found on CNN, and it says that happens suddenly. Kids don't just jump up one day and say, I'm dropping out of school. It says it happens slowly. They get a little behind. They get more behind. They can't imagine catching up.
Yeah.
So they just give up.
Yeah.
Jen, I want to step back for a moment because I think it's important to talk about your experience here. You've worked with what are called at-risk populations
Yes.
as a mental health therapist. So
Yes.
you have worked with children who are
Yes.
vulnerable to being recruited to gangs, already recruited to gangs, or living in neighborhoods where there is a lot of gang-related activity. When you
Yes.
see the shift that has had to take place because of the pandemic, what were some of your immediate concerns for these children that you've worked with before?
A lot of these children come to school and they haven't had a meal. Not because the parents are lazy, but because the parents really just don't have it. So they get their meals at school. So when they are at home because of the pandemic, then there's a real concern because how are they eating? What are they eating? Or how are they getting food? Because a lot of times the parents really just don't have it. A lot of those parents do not have the education, even the reading skills to help those children with homework. And they show me, like one parent showed me for her little, I think the child is like 6 or 7, the stack of work that they give for homework. She can't help the child, and this child has to turn this in by a certain date.
Yeah.
And so the parents are frustrated, the children are frustrated, and then when you don't know how to manage and regulate, self-regulate, you take the anger out on the same child who is already suffering because they can't do the work.
Yeah.
Parent gets frustrated too. So it's really been, looking at the kids, I just really feel awful for them. I stayed in contact with my kids because I was hoping, like one of them went back to school. He went to IT vet and he's doing well.
Yeah.
But he has a very supportive grandmother.
Yeah.
So he's doing well. A couple of the other kids are doing fairly well. But then there's another group of them that have just fallen off by the wayside.
So
And and it's money. It has a lot of it has finances too, Sorry, go ahead.
No, and that was actually the question I was going to ask. If you look at some of the reasons behind why some are still attempting to complete their studies online or from distance versus those who don't, what are the driving factors that make them choose not to re-enroll? You said money is one.
Money's a big one. That's the main one.
Yeah.
The parents can't afford it. Some of the people who might have assisted are struggling themselves.
Yeah.
They don't have enough in their family to be able to share with families who are less fortunate. So these children they're the ones who suffer. They're the ones who fall by the wayside. You know? It's really sad. Before, like some of these parents work at the restaurants. Some did work cleaning the streets, things like that. But they could get a meal from the restaurant when they closed. A lot of those people don't have work anymore. They just don't have the work.
Yeah.
So the ripple effect when a business closes or when a business is unable to reopen, the ripple effect it affects most of the people who can least afford to lose their jobs.
Yeah.
And their children are really at risk then, because then they look to other sources for making money. And if you're looking and seeing how many young people now are being murdered because they're being recruited, and if they don't follow through on things, that's the consequence, you know? Yes, it's terrifying.
So it's been a challenge to keep some children in school with these factors even before COVID. Now with COVID, it becomes even more challenging. I was I think sometimes it's so important we take different perspectives into account. And when you talk with some educators, they understand that if it's an online class, for example, there may be one phone that a family is using, or one tablet, or one computer, and the preference may go. Sometimes it goes to the brighter one in the family, or the one who is at the higher level of education, and or it's at work with mom or dad because they need to have contact. So the realities are so different across the country. And I hear you when you talk about resources being a part of the driving factor. But we are where we are right now, and we're still not able to get back to face-to-face education. When you put it into perspective, the Ministry of Education has already said that their data is saying that enrollment has dropped in some schools. So they know that some children have not returned to secondary level, secondary institutions. What are some of the things that you think has to be done as interventions?
Girl, let me tell you, these children have to be fed. So interventions have to be, and the people who are going to drop out are going to be the ones who least need to drop out. Those are the ones that are going to drop out because of not being able to get the tablet, not having the resources to check in online. And then once they check in online, there's no supervision. There's nobody to supervise them. Mom's gone out to work, or she has to go out and work, or she has to go find a way to feed them. So there's no supervision. Now, these children, a lot of them, and I kind of watched it with my nephews, they will wake up, without supervision, they will wake up, 5 minutes before classes, jump out of bed, sometimes not even wash their faces, and go sit in front of the computer because they have to check in. So they check in on the computer, put on their headphones. If you take their headphone and listen to it, they're not listening to the teacher, They're listening to music, they're doing something else other than paying attention. Because all that's required is to sit there in front of the computer and look and be there. Not even look interested, be there. There's got to be some way of challenging these children and interacting and engaging them. Because the minute they come in there in the morning, the disengagement begins. Teacher checks, goes through and does roll call. And then it's that I'm teaching you, I'm passing on information to you. There's got to be interaction. I look and I think, oh my gosh, there's got to be a way to interact with these children to find out what they're understanding. Because you give them the homework and then they have no idea what to do. And invariably, they don't have a parent who knows what to do either. So the parent can't help them.
Yeah.
So now this parent has to find money to go pay somebody to help their child get homework done. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But you know, Jen, the studies have shown that if you're watching something on your phone, if it's not on a computer screen or on a TV, and you're watching it on your phone, every time something comes or there is probably a pop-up or something like that, you're going to click into it. And so it's a very heavy distraction of the situation that's going on right now with having these children online.
Yes. And then let me tell you, boys, think about this. We've talked about this before. Boys are very predictable. Okay? Girls, you can put girls to sit down, and a lot of times a girl will sit and she will pay attention and she will focus. And if you get a couple of girls together, they will work together quietly. Not boys. The way boys learn is by moving around. They need to move around. That's how you know that they're learning, right? When they're seated in front of that computer for an hour, just sitting there, they're distracted.
Yeah.
They're not paying attention, you know?
Yeah.
So we have to look into meeting their needs the way they learn. And we have to get those boys. And again, the classrooms are filled, or the internet classroom is filled with boys and girls. And the boys are checked out. I look at my nephews, I look at their eyes. They're distracted, you know?
Yeah.
And the other kids, we have to figure out a way to be able to meet their needs as boys and as girls. They just really got to rethink how this is being done if we want to hang on to these children. And what we were working on for all those years was to keep them away from the gangs. And now
school,
we're making it so easy for them now to look at that as an option.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. You know, how difficult do you think it'll be to get these teens back into the classroom when face-to-face is allowed to happen? I mean, we haven't even talked or looked at the vaccination numbers based on different populations. We have a cumulative number for teens who've been vaccinated, but when they are allowed to go back face-to-face, do you think it'll be a natural return for those who have dropped out already, or do you think it's going to take some added effort?
It's going to take added effort. It really will, to bring them back to the classroom and to get them really engaged. And again, they really have to look at the psychology of how children learn. When they have been demotivated, their self-esteem has dropped. They cannot keep up with the work. And what happens? Children tend to think, if I can't keep up with the work, I'm dumb. I must be dumb. Why can't I keep up? The other people in the class look like they understand what's going on. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's demoralizing. And when you demoralize a human being, especially a teenager, it's so hard to bring them back to the point where they need to be. You know? I can't wait for this to be over and real quickly try to re-engage with these children.
Yeah.
And again, they really need to look at the psychology of learning and look at how boys learn, because it's the boys that we're losing more so than the girls.
Yeah.
I don't want to just focus on the fact that young boys, and probably in instances girls too, are only dropping out for the purpose of gangs. You know, there are situations where people are seeing their teenager, who very often we treat like adults at home doing nothing, and they say, well, you could go out and make some money or help to sell.
Yeah.
So they start to earn money. And that is I'd imagine. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So when they start to make money or help the household, it could be from the parental level, where they're like, well, it helps if you make money, versus being in school, or the teen themselves may get accustomed to earning their own. Do you foresee that to be part of the obstacle in getting them to want to come back to the classroom?
That's a big one. That is a big one. Because once they get out there and they experience making money, it makes them feel adultified, right? Now, why am I going back to school when I can make all this money and I didn't have to go finish getting a high school diploma or getting a piece of paper? I'm earning money, right? Another thing that we need to just touch on is a lot of our kids who have problems with reading, had problems with reading before the pandemic, and now with the pandemic, they're not getting the close attention that is possible to get. Like, for example, with Tina's program, where they're able to get some assistance with learning how to read so they can keep up.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing that we I don't know if we're paying attention to. We have a lot of, I think the research says that if the kids do not know, they haven't got a grasp of their reading skills by standard 2, that chances of them making it through high school or staying in because they get frustrated are high. They're going to leave. They're going to drop out because of the pure frustration of not being able to understand what the other kids are understanding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we have a lot of our kids that have reading problems before this.
Yeah, but because then one of the things that is not there anymore is that hands-on learning, whereby you're actually showing, or the teacher is actually coming around and saying, this is what you should do and should say. And for that reason, I always give a lot of kudos to teachers, especially the kindergarten one, because but it's very important, when they must go back in that classroom of having to leave behind all the snacks that you normally do when you're when you're on Zoom and all these things, Jen. To foresee what's going to happen next, it's going to be tough, and it will be something that works on your mental.
I was talking. There was this really innovative program that I saw in the States, and I thought, wow, that could work home. What they were doing, because the children need the social part of school.
Yeah.
The social. That's a huge thing for children, especially teenagers, right? So the kids could come to classes, the ones who do not have like the iPad and the phone, and they need help. So those kids who need help would come to school, and they had a classroom with social distancing, everything. Teacher is in another classroom with a blackboard or her board and all her things, and she explains the concepts that the child needs to learn for the day, and then asks them if they understand everything. She's able to write on the board and show them how to figure things out. But she's in her classroom doing all this, and they're right in another classroom, and they can ask questions and interact right there on the spot. If them work, they get instant gratification of having someone show them, explain to them what they're doing right or not. I think it's a phenomenal idea. You see, so the ones that would tend to fall behind don't fall behind because they're getting that additional attention that they need.
Yeah.
Right. I would love to see them do something like that here. I put it on the
Yeah. Yeah, where you separate the teacher from the students, and the students are socially distanced, so they can still have some level. I mean, it's not face to face, but it's immediate interaction.
It's immediate.
Yeah. Now, let me bring this home, because I think we look at the situation. I think from the point when the Ministry of Education, the minister had said it on the show, it was very concerning. And we've gotten additional reports from schools that say the same, that they're seeing a lower enrollment rate. Now, the question is, what's the role here of the community? What's the role of the school? What's the role of the parents? Because it has always been important that we're able to recognize that the children can't be driven entirely on their own. They have adults who guide them into doing what is necessary for them to reach their full potential. What is that face?
And it's, well, you know, I've worked with these kids for a long time. We've worked with these children, and we see the problems firsthand.
Yeah.
And if back then it was concerning us, can you imagine how much now it's scaring us when we see this? Because there's a group of children who are not going to make it. I remember growing up, Marlene, and we used to say, oh, we have 96% literacy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we could boast that, and it was real, right? Now, as we get older, we look and we go, parents are taking their children and putting them out to work. We have the laws, yes, but they're still sending their kids out to work.
Mm-hmm.
And once a kid goes out there and starts working, they feel like they're adults because they're contributing to the home.
Yeah.
So there's a certain group of kids, unless we put the things into effect that we need to put into effect, we're going to lose them. And we can hardly afford to lose a whole group of children because of poverty or because of whatever else is going on in the community. Mm-hmm. Those are the children we have to make the effort to grab a hold of them and help them so that we can stop some of the stuff that's going on out there.
Yeah.
When we look, oh, they're killing each other. Well, let them kill each other. They'll get rid of each other. No, that's not the answer. We have to make the effort to make sure that as children become educated, they learn things like empathy. They start working with each other and they start learning about caring for each other, right? Mm-hmm. We have to do those things. The children must learn how to read. They must learn how to interact with each other.
Yeah.
We all, as a community, have a responsibility to figure out if you just reach back and help one child to get back into school who can't pay fees. If we could, each one of us help one child to help with their fees to get them back in school. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the parent doesn't have to sacrifice their child and put them to work to help feed their family. Well, I think that would be a start. We all have a responsibility to reach back and help at least one child, at least one.
Even the community, though. Even the wider community. Yeah, yeah. You know,
I'm talking about the community.
I love what you're saying when you talk about the empathy we need to have to each other, because the frustration is all around. You talk to parents, they're frustrated with the system. You talk to teachers, they're frustrated and doing all that they can. Resources are hard to come by all around. You know, the parents may not be able to afford things. The schools need to provide things. The teachers are on a pay cut, and so it's just constant blame game and a cycle that's happening. But in the meantime, the focus on children it's being lost.
It's not being, Marlene. It's gone out the door. It's gone out the door. And we talk about the children are our future. They are our future. That's who's going to be running this country in a few years. I mean, have we thought about that?
Mm-hmm. Going.
Have we thought about that?
Going down the.
These are
the 2 years of and as a parent, I'm here thinking, and this is the part that I love. I get to listen and I get to learn, but I'm thinking that it's up to us, the parents, to try and bring back those children within the for the 2 years or the two different school years that they've been missing right now. Having to deal with them and their social issues, having to deal with them and the world of the internet, having to deal with them and providing snacks for them because they're able to at this particular time while they're on Zoom. Jenny and Marlene, when these children go back to school, it's going to be a whole new learning lesson, a lesson of life that they'll need to be instilled. It's going to be a tough situation between them and the teacher. Jenny and Marlene, it's going to be it's a tough situation that we are in, but it's the onus is up to us, the parents, to try and prepare them for when they get back to school.
Yeah. And one of the ways parents have to do this parents have to start paying attention. I mean, I don't care if you can't read or you don't understand the homework, but you need to get out there and go check on those children. Take out the headphones and see what they're listening to. Are they listening to the teacher? Do at least that. Ensure that they are paying attention. Check to make sure that they're doing the homework. You might not understand the homework, but check to make sure they are doing it. They're sitting
that their
down.
answers on the
make
paper.
Sure that they're picking up a book. Yes, make sure they're picking up a book and reading. You cannot just let them be because it's a pandemic. No, life is still going on. Life is still going on, and our children are falling backwards. And each one of us has a responsibility to make sure that we are there to still catch them. We still need to catch them.
Well, that's
we
one
still
of
need to support them.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you to at least address, because we can talk about the challenges of children who are in classes, children who do have some level of presence by their parents in this process. Some are lucky enough to have a tutor to help them or a teacher to help them. But we're talking about the ones who are left to do it on their own, may choose not to, who may have work responsibilities added to them now because they have to help out at home, or they are the main caretaker of the younger siblings. And so the expectation is they're doing school and taking care of the toddler in the process. And these are children who deserve as much as every other child in this country to have access to that education and to stay in school. Now, we could go the route of blaming parents, but I in my heart, I feel that no parent wants that life for their child. They're probably doing the best that they can. So, Jenny, there are community groups, there are church groups, there are persons who are out in society who would love to help but don't know how. What do you think we can do as a society to kind of step in, because it is a challenging situation for some families out there and they need help?
I had one of my friends call me a couple nights ago and say that he'd been gifted some iPads, and he was asking me if I know of any children who did not have access to the iPad for classes. So I was calling the families that I know, and a couple of the children had already dropped out of school because they didn't have the iPads, right? So those are some of the things. And when I say iPads, it's not iPads, it's those little
tablets,
$100 tablets, right? Something like that. If you can help a child who cannot go into the classes because he has no access. But then also the child would also need to be getting the internet. He also has to have internet, right? So it's not just the iPad, it's also help with the internet. Basically there are some things going on that the community can help. Right. If at all possible, can we bring maybe a friend? We don't want people in our homes, but there's got to be some way that you can reach out and help some of these friends. Find ways. If for no other reason, if in no other way, that maybe you can help a child with homework. Help guide a child with homework.
All right.
Jen, we're so thankful that you could have joined us this morning. We miss you, like we mentioned. We hope that the next time we see you could be in the studio with us, so we could have a real heart-to-heart. We could have that heart-to-heart and try to roll that out.
Eye-to-eye, right?
Yes. But it's nice to have you in this morning. Thank you so very much, and here's wishing you a great day.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So we're about to take a break. We'll ramp things up for Friday morning. When we come back, that guy is going to be in with us. Who? There are only two letters I know him by, TR. And we've got to put the shine behind it. So we'll have some music when we come back with our brother, TR Shine. Stay with us. We'll be back.
These are the people who I want to appeal to. Make those little slips. It happens. You have to have a plan to manage your problems effectively. How are you going to do it? Fall off the horse? Jump right back on.